Da, da, theme song. Da, da, da. Welcome back to A Thousand Eyes in One. You guys remember us as a Game of Thrones and a Song of Ice and Fire podcast, but
plot twist!
Today we're going to be talking about The Wheel of Time. I'm Tanya.
And I'm Nikki.
And today we have our friend Melissa joining us. So, with Wheel of Time, I've only read the first 3 books.
You haven't read anything?
And Melissa has read almost all of them.
Yes, I have read all of the books except for the prequel book, which I thought I would actually leave off since the show was just about to come out, and I wanted to leave something that might still surprise me. So that's why I decided in the end to not listen to it. So, yep.
Cool. So today we just watched the very first episode, and we are going to share our immediate thoughts. Nikki, do you want to start since you're the least familiar with them?
I took notes because I'm going to forget everything. My first note was like, oh my god, the scenery is so beautiful. I want to live there. It's just like pure fantasy, gorgeousness. But no, my first thought was I love this show. I'm very excited. It's not true that I haven't read anything. I read like the first 3 pages and I was like, well, this fucking show comes out tomorrow, so maybe I should just like wait and watch it. But I'm very excited. It's just, I don't know what else to say except I'm really excited and I can't wait to get into the next episode and talk about this one with people who know what's going on.
My first impression is this is like instant hit for me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sold. I really enjoyed the episode a lot. I enjoyed the visuals. Some of the characters look pretty much how I pictured them, which was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And some of them didn't look how I pictured, but now seeing them, it's completely changed what I had in my head too.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. And I don't know, should we start with just the opening and some of the lore, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in this episode to unpack. I think one of the things that we have to give credit to the showrunner, Rafe, and his team and everybody involved is that it's just such a huge undertaking to try and put the Wheel of Time into TV format. And I was really interested to see like which things they would cut, which things they would keep, which things they would change. It's probably like the coolest thing for me as a book reader. I know a lot of book readers out there are probably like, I hate it. But for me, like, I always take TV adaptations with a grain of salt. And I also think that you've got to kind of see it as another turning of the wheel. I think that's the easiest way to look at it, is that it's another iteration of all the characters and places and stories that we love, but it's a different turning of the wheel, and you need to kind of have a bit more of an open mind, which, I feel like they've done an amazing job of still keeping to the true spirit of the books, and I'm super excited to see where it goes. I loved it.
I will say, if you're coming into this expecting Game of Thrones, no.
Stop.
Right now.
Just stop.
It is not at all like it. Other than being an epic fantasy, it's not similar at all.
Yeah.
Although Roose Bolton's in it.
And I saw him smile for the first time ever. He came on screen and I was like, oh my god, I've never seen this man smile before.
And he's so nice.
I know. I was like, Roose Bolton has a sweet and loving dad? What?
This is not at all what I expected.
Yeah, it's like one of the things that's annoying. Obviously, we're watching it the day after it officially released, and there's already been a lot of reviews that have come out that have, like, so many of the reviews have talked about it being Game of Thrones. I think that's because I think Jeff Bezos did make a remark that this was going to be Amazon's Game of Thrones, but what I do think he meant was that this is, going to be Amazon's fantasy. Or,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that he was saying that it was going to be like Game of Thrones, and I think that's a huge, grievous error. If any reviewers are even trying to remotely, like, compare them, then they really aren't very good reviewers, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's a world of it. It's a world of its own, and I think that you're right. They're like, this is our epic fantasy. This is our dive into that world, and I mean, while you're watching it, you're like, oh, it's got all like the fantasy things. There's like rituals, right, and rites of passage, and there's like the quaint little villages, and the stranger who comes on with it's giving me like Gandalf, right. So there's all of that, and all those like classic elements of fantasy, but it is not Game of Thrones.
And I think it really does it a disservice to compare it to Game of Thrones. And I've seen other fantasy works compared to Game of Thrones where like you go into it and it's like, this is absolutely nothing like Game of Thrones. Stop comparing things to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is its own thing.
And I mean, it's also disservice to Game of Thrones because, I mean, it's its own entity and there doesn't need to be another one. You know, it stands out on its own, it's unique. And I think that they've made some really interesting decisions and clever decisions about how the look of the show is. They've tried really hard to veer away from the Game of Thrones kind of gritty, you know, dark realness. It's a different type of world. I don't know if anybody picked up on the overgrown skyscrapers in one scene. So there's actually ruins.
That's in the beginning.
So, you know, this is really supposed to be kind of our future. If you were going to take it, you know, this is kind of part of our world. And I think that they are trying really hard to let you know that, you know, there's this kind of world that doesn't have the kind of normal fantasy medieval setting. This is a world that's on the verge of industry. And even though, you know, that steam power is just about to come out and things like that. And so, you know, it's not meant to be everybody lives in hovels and, you know, it's dirty all the time. And, you know, it's a different style of fantasy that people kind of have to come to terms with, I think.
It's really... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, one of the very first things they mention is the breaking of the world. So that right there tells you that this is a society that's starting over, essentially.
And I was going to say, it's really interesting you say that because what struck me in the beginning with that scene where, like, it's like you see the mountains and you see all these tall things, and I didn't realize that they were old skyscrapers because I was like, what is going on here? Just like this architecture, so like, what are these formations? But that makes a lot of sense. And I also, it's actually the problem I had with Bridgerton, my first episode I watched. I was like, everything is so fucking clean. Why is it so clean? They wouldn't be this clean, but I that makes a lot more sense.
Also, you got to remember it's Beltane, which is like their hugest festival of the year. So all these villages are in their, I would say, their Sunday best, and they're also, you know, will have cleaned themselves for, you know, the celebration. They wouldn't be looking at the worst. But if you pay close attention, there are definitely people who are still dirty. Matt and his family are definitely disheveled and have dirt on them, and they're really making an effort to sort of show the different classes even within this remote village in the middle of the mountains.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with the cleanliness because, you know, these people obviously care about their appearance and they care about what, you know, they look like and present to other people. And I think it's kind of a myth that villagers in general wouldn't care and would just not wash. I think it's kind of, you know, anybody who's worked on a farm, like, you still, you know, you do go out and you do your day's work, but then, you know, you still come in and you wash and you clean yourself and you sometimes change to.
I think it was more so the palace dwellers who weren't washing. Like, did you ever hear about that? I think it's at Versailles, about how it used to stink because they had like a poop corner. It's like during balls, people would just like go behind a curtain and everyone would.
I don't think they even knew how to wash themselves. They probably were so inept, and because everything was done for them, that they probably were like, "Oh, what do I do?" Yeah.
So but these people, you know, they.
I just had the image of some woman like leaving the corner. She's got shit trailing on the back.
On the back of her gown.
Oh no!
Oh man!
If you ever want to have like a historically accurate party, just have in a castle with a poop corner.
Well, I mean, historically accurate is hilarious in fantasy anyway. You know,
because it's fantasy.
It's fantasy. Like, they'll literally be anything they want. Yeah, the Trollocs weren't dirty enough. Sorry.
Let's get into some of the plot.
Oh, I'm gonna let you guys talk first because, you know, obviously I know, and you do too.
Yeah, I do know too much.
I don't know anything. I was open with like the rite of passage that's happening in the beginning. That you see all the women are gathered to I guess it's an initiation to initiate. I don't know her name. Egwene into womanhood. I guess.
Yep.
Maybe she just got her period.
With
I don't know.
Braid.
With her braid. So she got the braid. That's the symbol of her joining, and then they push her off a cliff. Into the bluest waters I've ever seen outside of Switzerland.
In the book, I don't remember cliff pushing.
No.
But like the braid is the sign of womanhood, basically. You get to wear your hair in a braid.
The women's circle is actually the kind of power base of the village too. There actually is the men's council, so there's two different sides. They didn't really get into that because I think they're really also trying to differentiate between a lot of fantasy in the past where men have been kind of driving the power in these books. And what's so cool about Wheel of Time and the setting here is that, you know, because of what men have done in the past, women kind of have risen to a matriarchal power in society. And I think that them focusing on the women's rite of passage and kind of how much equality they have in the village, if you want to put it, is a really good way of setting up that this is not the same fantasy where, you know, women are downtrodden and have no value and only look pretty. And I think that was really well done.
Right. They're not trading them like playing cards.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I think that scene as well in the beginning with the Red Aes Sedai, or from the Red Aja, as they're called, hunting down the male channeler. That was also a really good way, again, of saying, you know, hey, women are in power. And, you know...
And she says it straight up, right? She's like, you know, this power is tainted because it's come into you as a man. You know, you're not supposed to have it.
When you touch it, you taint it. I also it was a really small thing, but like the women all sitting around getting hammered together. Yeah. That was really cute too. You know, that's like a American rite of passage. Your 21st birthday, your girls get together and all just get hammered.
Yeah, it was very cool. That isn't actually in the books. They've definitely expanded on the women's circle, but like I said, I think that was for a very important reason of showing just that society is a little bit different in this world when it comes to women and where the part they play in village happenings and things. So what did you guys think of the five main characters? Well, the five younglings, I should say. So there's Nynaeve, there's Egwene, there's Perrin, there's Matt, and Rand.
Matt is exactly how I pictured him.
Yep.
I was going to say, I don't remember anyone's names. I know there's the redhead guy, the girl with the braid, the guy who was stealing with the little sisters, and the guy whose wife.
So Perrin is the guy whose wife. We'll get into that. Matt was the gambler. Rand was the redhead. Egwene, it was his girlfriend who newly braided.
Right.
And Nynaeve was the village wisdom.
Oh, got it. Okay. Well, R.I.P.
So now we'll see what happens with everyone because.
Yeah. Did you guys have an early favorite, like an early character that you?
I like them all.
Yep.
I like them all because they what's the gambler guy's name?
Matt.
Because like Matt, at first you're like, wait, who's this guy? He's a little bit shady, but then you see him looking out for his little sisters, and then he's just doing everything he can to get by. So instant redemption for me. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing where everybody goes and what they do because I have no expectations.
Yeah,
so it's really fun.
Which is nice, right?
It's been so long since I read it. I actually recently started rereading the first book, but it's been so long, and I only read them once, so I'm not particularly attached to anything. So, you know, even though I have a general idea of what's gonna happen, I'm not like beholden to anything. Like there's nothing. I'm not saying I'm not going into it with any expectations, but I don't have any particular like hopes because I'm not as attached to it. It was different with Game of Thrones because I'd read the book so many times and you become attached to the story. And with this, I'm not, there's no attachment. You know, it's still pretty new to me. So
it's kind of nice though, right?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
It is really nice. It's refreshing, to go into it, a show, another big epic fantasy, but this time without the weight of the material on me. Even though I am going to continue reading the books, I don't know. I have high hopes so far. I mean, again, it's only the first episode. The first season of Game of Thrones completely blew my mind, and then look how that how that ended. But what I'm hoping is that they learn from the mistakes of Game of Thrones. Yep. The second season got greenlit before the first season ever even came out.
Right.
Long before it ever came out. So it's apparently very good.
There's good scripting happening here. Good adaptation.
Do you want me to go into a couple of the changes that that have occurred from the books?
So far, yeah.
Okay. No, so far. No spoilers, I promise, for going forward. So probably the main things that, the main changes that I think really have been the talking points from people who've read the books. First thing, Matt, since we're talking about Matt. Matt actually has a very stable home life in the books. And he doesn't come from a kind of a dysfunctional family. He's not really portrayed as poor or as disheveled as he is in the show. And his that's all I can really say at this point. So some people have thought that his parents have kind of been hard done by because they do feature a little bit later on. I don't want to give it spoilers. And so there are some people who obviously got attached to those characters and kind of thought it was a bit nasty the way they did it. However, like you literally just said why I think they did what they did, because Matt is a little bit of a rascal and he's honestly a little bit whiny. Oh, one really important thing that they did is they aged up these characters.
Yes, they're all aged
So they
up.
were all like around 17, 18. Nynaeve was then about 22, 23, I guess. And I think that made a huge impact on what they decided to do with the characters going into this first episode. So, you know, with Matt, I think they had to show that nurturing side of him so that, you know, you could see that even though he's a rascal and a scoundrel and he steals from people and all that kind of stuff, that he really has the heart,
Right.
you know, of a character that you want to know what happens to.
I remember him being like mischievous in the book, but I don't remember him stealing.
I don't
like,
think he
other
was necessarily
villagers.
stealing, but I think he was a little bit morally grey. Like, I mean, if he like found something, he wouldn't necessarily feel like he needed to give it back. You know what I mean? But like, he definitely didn't come from kind of a dysfunctional, broken home, so to speak. And I thought that was a really interesting choice to go to. But again, they're trying to get across in like, you know, one episode, kind of the heart of these characters.
Right.
And I think that, you know, everybody in the books gets these pages and pages of kind of point of view of exposition about these characters, and they can't afford to do that in TV adaptation.
Right. So they give him a defining moment, right? Like at the part where he runs, where the Trollocs are,
Exactly.
are attacking, and his parents are like hiding, and he goes back out into danger to find his sisters.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that, you know, it's a clever way to tell what we all know if we read the books, but in a very, very short amount of time. And you were endeared to him as a result of that. So I think that totally worked.
Yeah.
With regards to Perrin, nobody's married
No.
at the beginning of the book. So Perrin is having a wife is a total difference from the books, and a lot of people have not liked that addition, especially since you know what happens to her. Spoiler, hopefully you already have seen episode 1, because she arrives and then she dies. And one of the things that a lot of people have, they call it fridging, you know, like she basically just arrived to, she just was on screen to die.
They created this whole new character, this whole new woman character to be in the show, just to die in the first episode to further his plot.
Yeah, so it's that whole thing is a successful plot device, right? Because he has to experience loss to be able to be down to like take this journey.
Right. And in the books that wasn't really necessary. Perrin was such a sweet character because he's described that he's really tall, he's this big
gentle
guy.
giant.
Yes, gentle giant. You know, he could probably fuck you up, but he really doesn't want to. And I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see what they do with that in the show. I didn't really like having him show up with a wife and her to immediately get murdered. Like, I didn't like that at all, because I just don't find it necessary, because I was personally endeared to Perrin very quickly, even just seeing how sweet he was with Matt and you know, offering the money for the, you know, and you know, just all these little things he was doing. He even speaks very gently, and despite being bigger than everyone and towering over everyone, the actor just does a really good job as coming off as this big guy who could probably crush you with his bare hands, but like doesn't want to and isn't going to. And
do you know what's hilarious is that when he was first cast, Marcus Rutherford was the actor. People said he wasn't big enough.
Really?
That he wasn't going to be able to embody Perrin because, you know, he's too skinny. Because he's definitely bulked up for the character.
Okay.
But, I mean, seriously, like, it's hilarious, like, the kind of crap that was kind of thrown around because, and let's face it, it was also partly because of his color of his skin. It really was.
Right.
People were like, oh, he's not white and built like, you know, like, because there was a lot of description in the book about him having like really broad shoulders, and it was just hilarious. Like, people just going on about it.
As far as appearance, it seems like the only person, and I won't give her any spoilers, but the only person whose appearance really matters is Rand, and they make it very obvious. He has this flaming red hair that no one else has.
Right,
and you notice that the moment he's on the screen.
Isn't he just beautiful though?
Yes, he's
he's so easy
Very
to look.
cute.
Actually, they're all easy to look at. Let's face it.
Nynaeve is gorgeous
Isn't
too.
she?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Every time they did a close up of her face, I was like swooning.
Can I just say that I am so happy and proud as a New Zealander that we have New Zealand representation in this show. Because Zoe Robbins, who plays Nynaeve, who I absolutely love, is from New Zealand. She's got South African heritage as well. And just throw out another down under connection. Madeline Madden, who plays Egwene, is from Australian Aborigine, which I think is awesome.
That is
I have to
awesome.
say that, like, within the first few minutes of watching it, I was like, this is the most multicultural show I have,
Yes.
like, fantasy I have ever seen.
And it's not made a deal of. It's not like they're going, hey, look at us, we're the flagship of this. It's like they literally, that's just the world.
Right.
And that's how it should be. It's like they're not drawing attention to anything. They're just literally just letting the characters do their thing and speak for themselves. I would like to talk about Perrin's wife, Layla, for a minute, because I, have a theory that I would like to put out there.
Okay.
Tin Hat Song?
So I have actually seen this episode twice. I actually went to the premiere on Monday, the fan showing. So this is the second time I'm seeing the episode, and I did have something I wanted to confirm. So if you guys don't mind me sharing this theory, I mean, it potentially could be a spoiler, but we'll see. So I thought it was really interesting the first time I saw it was that there was kind of like a disconnect between Perrin and his wife. Like they're going through some kind of tension or something, and I thought that was really interesting.
Have a baby.
Well, that definitely did kind of did seem like that. I don't know if you noticed, but she grabs his pinky as part of like a thing, and she did that when she died, which I thought was really lovely. That too. But I have to say that part of me thinks she might be what they call in the show a dark friend. Now, a dark friend is basically a person who works for is given their soul to the dark one or the big bad. And the reason why I'm thinking that is because of a couple of things. She doesn't go along to Egwene's ceremony. She kind of is aloof.
She didn't go to Beltane.
She didn't go to Bel. She did actually. She was dancing in Beltane. She was dancing with Perrin.
Oh.
I did actually pay attention to that, but she wasn't there the winter night in the pub. And then the other thing that is interesting that I double checked to make sure and watched it today before I said anything is that when Perrin goes kind of nuts and he's like attacking the Trolloc over and over again, and then he turns and he attacks her. Her arms are raised above her head. It looked like she was going to strike him. It looked like she was about to attack him. So I think she might be a dark friend. And the device that I think they put her in for, I don't want to get too spoilery, but there is quite a lot of stuff in the books about Perrin kind of the whole gentle giant thing and kind of not wanting to hurt people and being very aware of kind of losing control. That's a really big deal for the character. And there's other stuff coming up that I can't talk about, but it really plays into kind of him being torn about whether to embrace kind of his, I guess you could say, wild side animal instincts or how you want to put it. And so I think that this was a way for them to really quickly sum up the kind of him going forward and going, I don't want to go there, and having a really definitive reason why, but also maybe there's a reason why he actually attacked her. It would be great. Like, I mean, on a subconscious level, he kind of knew that she was a bad person, and that's why he just immediately attacked her. And then when he realized it was hers, oh my god! Right. But, I mean, she was definitely. I looked again. She was definitely had her arms above her head, like she was about to attack him.
I thought so too. That's why I was like started getting excited when you were saying it, because it did look like her arms were raised, like she was about to strike. Oh. And then I thought to myself, layers. And I thought, was she about to hit him accidentally, or is she about to hit? Was she trying to aim for the Trolloc? But I couldn't tell because, we just watched it. I only watched it once. Normally we do multiple watches. For episodes 4 through 8, we'll probably do multiple watches before we record. But for tonight, we'll just do the, initial.
But it was cool that she was the town blacksmith. I thought that was awesome.
I like that.
Or at least she and him were the town blacksmith, however you want to put it. But I thought that was really cool. And again, another way to show that women... have just as big a part in the village as the men do. So I personally think there is a huge reason why they've done what they've done with Perrin's wife. With Layla, I'm sorry, I should give her a name, not just the character's wife. And I think as well that everything they do is for a reason in the show. I really firmly believe that Rafe Judkins knows what he's doing, and they know why they're putting something in, and it almost always will be for a character development purpose, and that's so why I'm like, anybody who's really pissed off about this, I think please just hold on and see where this leads, because I really do think that there's going to be more coming in about this.
I'm hoping it pays off, because I didn't like the idea of her being brought in just to be killed, just for him to have that thing to be sad about. So I do hope that your theory
it also
plays
gives him
out
a reason to hate his ex.
That's true. It does,
and he does have a lot of moments, and again pages of point of view where he's like, the axe is kind of like makes me a killer kind of type side of things. So again,
interesting.
Do you want to talk about Moiraine's powers?
Oh yeah, the weaving.
Can you guys tell me about that? Because I was like, all of a sudden she was like waving her arms and there were lights coming from everywhere. And I was just like, whoa, this is...
Well, first of all, I want to know,
scene.
how do you feel? Because like this is really, there's not a lot of shows where they're showing you like magic this close up front.
Right.
Because let's face it, like Game of Thrones,
magic.
Yeah.
you know, Game of Thrones kind of went mystical later on. But
Yeah.
they kept a lot of the kind of, that kind of side of fantasy really, you know, first of all, it was kind of more like a drama and more like a intrigue.
Right.
So how did it feel for you
I love
suddenly
it.
seeing like magic very...
I love it because that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Why do you think I came all this way? Right? Like that's why I'm here. I want to see the magic. I want to see it. And I think like when we were talking earlier, I was like, well, the fact that they like hit you with the magic like up front right away is like already distinguishing it from Game of Thrones.
Yep.
But it's awesome to see like that's the kind of power that she has. Like even when she like casually is like heating up the pool, the water in the bath, or what's the fuck is her name? The other lady.
Nynaeve or
Yes.
Egwene?
Yes, her doing her thing, and it's just I want to see more.
Yes.
I want to see more. Can we talk? Wait, since we're talking about the bath, can we talk about her sidekick?
Lan. Oh, I love me some Lan.
Lan, and we get to see a butt.
Yes.
We're very happy about that. Let's
Yes.
face it, there is apparently a rumor that we're going to see a lot more male nudity than female nudity in the show.
Yes.
Which I think is,
It's
we're
about
very
time.
happy about that.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me say, Daniel Henney, he is fine.
Yeah.
We're all on board with that one.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I was going to say, so what exactly is his, well, I mean,
Role?
I'll find out, but what is his role? Because it reminds me of like the Fountain series and like some Jeff Wheeler books where there's like this woman who's really powerful and then she's got like a male who's attached to her kind of like as a person, like they're bonded in some way, and there's got like he's like her protector.
That's
and, like,
exactly
You
it.
just explained it.
Okay. Well, there it is.
Yes, he's bonded to her. They're not like a couple. He's bonded to her in service, but not like her servant.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
They're definitely equals.
Yeah.
And I think that they did a really great job of choreographing that whole fight scene.
Right.
You saw that they worked
it's
as one.
beautiful.
It was like a dance. And I think it's really important to show as well. I think the bathtub scene, some people again online have said, oh, it was gratuitous, didn't need to be done. It was like, no. It
Give it to
totally
me.
just showed you that there's nothing sexual going on between
Right.
them. That they've been around each other for so long that they don't care if they see each other naked. And I thought it was a perfect way, again, in a very short period of time, to show that about these two.
Right.
And besides the fact that we all get to see his booty, which, you know, nobody's going to ever complain about.
No. I'm here.
Yeah, I think that it was awesome. And also another way to just show that the Two Rivers is in the middle of nowhere, because they even remark, oh, I'm surprised we could find a bathtub, you know,
Right.
here. And just those little bits that they put in just to kind of, you know, give a little bit more depth, but not having to kind of give you bouts and bouts of exposition. And that's one reason why I think some book readers find this a little bit rushed, this first episode, and the pacing a little bit weird. But having watched it for the second time, I enjoyed it a lot more, mainly because I wasn't thinking about changes, but also I think that the pacing, it's actually, I mean, you guys would be able to understand that better than me probably, but I actually really liked it the second time around watching it, having now kind of absorbed all the changes and all the differences. I got to enjoy it more and really kind of appreciate the flow. So how did you guys feel about the pacing of
I thought the pacing was good. Like it didn't have all that, because here's the thing about, since we're going to Game of Thrones, here's the thing about Game of Thrones. I had to watch the first episode. It took me several times to get through the first episode. And then one day I finally, like, I was like, oh, doing laundry. And then I made it to the end and I was like, oh my God. And then I was hooked, right? Because everything took so long. But it's like, you know that something's going on, that like they hit you with action from the very beginning. And they give you like enough explanation for you to like be like, okay, I don't really understand what's going on here, but I'm here and I want to continue. I want to know. I want to keep watching it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have no problem with the pacing. I think it's a really fast introduction, because especially you know that there are 2 other episodes to watch, so you're not like being teased for like whoever knows how long.
I like the pacing as well, and knowing what was going to happen in general. I knew that the Trolloc attack had to happen this episode.
Yeah.
Because that's what starts the story. And so you have to get through meeting all these people, because like you said in the books, there's chapter after chapter of just like we start with Egwene being a little kid and carrying water, not being old enough to have a braid yet, and you know, being old enough now to carry the water and trying to be the best water carrier.
Oh yeah, I remember that from those first 3 pages.
and then all about like her and Rand and how they're basically promised to each other, and but that goes on for so long.
It does.
It goes on for so long before you finally get to and even after Moraine first shows up, there's page after page of
and
there's ladies here and there's a Glee Man and we didn't get the Glee Man yet.
No, so they didn't. That was one of the changes. Maybe we're not going to talk about that because that's gonna, I'm assuming, come up in a couple episodes. But there was so much going on in that episode that I can understand why they left Tom, which is the name of a character that's coming up. That was supposed to be in this first episode, according to the books.
Yeah, but I knew that anyway. I was gonna say I just knew that we had to have the Trolloc attack in this episode because it really kickstarts everything else.
Everything. It starts off. It begins their adventure and makes them the center of everything. Basically,
one thing that was different that I did miss a little bit was the ravens. Do you remember in the first book,
in the
beginning, they just different people keep seeing ravens,
and then there's the one raven that acts weirdly in the barn,
right, when they throw things
and they
at
throw it at just side steps.
Yeah.
So that I'm interested to know why. Also, the other thing that was different, and I hope this isn't a spoiler, but the Trolloc that attacks Tam and Rand can talk, and his name is Narg. In the books, and he actually speaks to them, and it's like the first time you realize that the Trollocs are actually, you know, they're not just orcs, exactly. And that was a really interesting choice that wasn't Narg. So a lot of people have been like, oh, where was Narg? Because he kind of goes like, Narg's smart, Narg come back, and it's very interesting. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that's something that they're
get
saving.
The one where he where the one that's the Trolloc that smiles at them.
Yeah.
Right?
So you can tell that
and
there's
also the Fade. Remember they kept spotting the Fade in the distance.
Yes, the mysterious rider.
The mysterious rider that we now know.
And
is
they didn't
Fade.
show that at all.
Right. So we were missing that tension from what are these ravens about? Who is this black cloaked mysterious traveler? So we didn't have that tension that you get hit with in the very beginning of the book.
Yeah.
It's
well,
okay.
They did, but they did show that one like so and so is near, and then you just see like somebody with a hood with a creepy face, and that's all. But it doesn't come back.
So that is the Fade.
Okay,
right, that's the Fade.
But in the books, all these young guys, including Matt, Perrin, and Rand, of a certain age, see this mysterious cloaked figure, and they all see them, and so they realize that something weird's going on, but they're not sure what. But I think it was, I guess, just again like they ran out of time.
Yeah,
right.
And there are a lot of people who were hoping that the first episode would have been like 15 minutes longer, just so they could fit more in. But I mean, let's face it, we have no idea what the studios wanted or anything. You can't get into that kind of stuff because these guys had a budget to keep to.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm sure they would have wanted to have more time, but it ultimately comes down to how much they can afford to do. So. And I guess really maybe we should move on to episode 2, or is there anything else you want to talk about with episode 1?
I don't think that. I mean, just episode 1 ends with the call to action, right? She's like, "You guys are the 4." I don't know which one of you fucking is, but one of you guys is the dragon.
Yes,
the Dragon Reborn, and we're gonna find that out.
Oh, we should ask Nikki.
Who I don't know yet.
No,
too early.
I know, but do you have any early? You can still say early for after episode 1. Who was your first choice for Dragon Reborn? Let's just put it that way.
It's a tie. It's the redhead guy, right? And then I want Egwene, maybe. But then it's like, I feel like it could be all of them. It's really bad. Like, maybe it's the Matt guy. Maybe it's the fucking parent. I have no idea. But I'm excited.
Everyone has a role to play.
Yes. I can't wait. Okay.
All right. So that was episode 1.
Episode 1.
We're going to watch the rest. Follow us on Twitter, 1000 Eyes 1, Instagram, 1000 Eyes and 1, and Facebook, 1000 Eyes and 1, and we'll give you other stuff in the show notes.
Yep. All right.